So what skill are we covering today? How to shoot a ball more accurately in soccer. All right, so that first tip when planting is that we want to plant about a foot away. And keep in mind, this is for a driven shot. When we're striking it with the bone of our foot, we want to be planted about a foot away, and notice where my foot is pointed. It's pointed directly at you. This is great if I want the ball to be driven directly at you. This is not so good if I want that ball to go to the far post or to the near post. So imagine you're that goalkeeper. If I'm pointing my foot directly at you, this is not good. I want to either get it to that far post or that near post so that when I go to follow through, it's much easier to point my hips in the direction that I want them to go. So I just alluded to that second point and that first point, but that second point and probably even most important point is that we got to make sure that we're pointing our hips. So if you ever look at the end of the shot where your hips are pointed, 99% of the time, that's where the ball ends up. So if I want that ball to go directly to you, I got to make sure that as I point my foot, it's still pointed at you, but even more importantly is when I strike that ball and I finish after I strike that ball, notice where my hips are pointing directly at you. So it's so important that we follow through, strike that ball, point our hips, we square our hips, because if I go and I turn my hips too much, notice what's going to happen. Do you think that ball's going straight now, or is it going to go across the frame of the net because I'm pointing in a different direction with my hips than where I really want that ball to go? Notice how the ball is going wherever I point my hips. Therefore, after you take a shot, see where your hips are pointing to get an immediate feedback on how to improve your accuracy when you're shooting that ball. So that third tip, that third thing you want to consider in order to have more accurate shots is that you want your shoulders and head down and over the ball even after you're done following through and striking that ball. So when we go to strike that ball, a lot of players will have their head down and everything, that's great when they strike it, but as soon as they strike that ball, they're trying to look to see where that ball went. They want to see, wow, that's such an amazing goal. I'm such a great soccer player. But the problem with that, notice what happens to my body. Here, my form is good. Everything stays together. Whereas here, form not so good, my shoulders start to go up. The analogy I like to use is, do you want to be a soccer player that scores 10 goals a season and you see every single one? Or would you rather be the soccer player that scores 25, 30 goals a season and barely sees any of them? Keep your head down, shoulders over the ball when you're striking a shot. And that fourth point is to make sure to mentally rehearse your shot. Now, a little bit harder to do in a game, but definitely on penalty kicks and free kicks, you want to make sure that first lap is in your head. So now, think about it. When you go and you're doing laps in a drill, your first lap is generally your worst lap. So the trick is to actually make that first lap in your mind and then that second lap to be in reality. To everyone else, it'll look like your first lap, but you know that you've already done it once, if not twice, 3 times in your head to make sure everything's there. Visually rehearsing something is the equivalent of actually doing it one time. So by getting a few reps even before you kick the ball with those penalty kicks and free kicks, it's going to make you a lot more consistent and a lot better at taking those shots. So in that comment section below, comment yes if you're really good about keeping your head down when you're shooting, or comment no if you're like I was for years and always wanted to see all my goals go in, so I'd lift my head up when I shot. So that first thing we want to avoid is avoid picking our head up when we go to take those free kicks. You pick your head up, you bring your shoulders up, your form collapses, and a lot of your shots are boom, way too high in the air, or they're just inaccurate. When you keep your head down, you can focus more on your form than you will actually focus on the ball going in the net. As soon as you start focusing too much on the ball going in the net, you're not thinking, you're not mentally rehearsing what your form should look like, you're not keeping that form together, and your shots won't be as accurate. That second thing we want to avoid is if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And it's so important that you go in with a plan. Anytime you're going to take one of those kicks, the free kicks, the penalty kicks, even a shot in a game, it's best to know how you're going to receive the ball, how you're going to turn, attack, take that attacking touch and actually shoot. Constantly come up with plans in your head. If I get the ball right now, what am I doing? If I get the ball right now, what am I doing? If I'm taking a free kick, am I taking a penalty kick? All right, what am I doing? Let's rehearse it over and over again. Keep my head down, follow through, point my hips. All these different things make a big difference. So make sure you don't fail to plan, because otherwise you'll plan to fail. And for that third point, it's avoid focusing on mistakes. So in life, in soccer, in anything, what you focus on is what you're likely to grow. So if you're constantly having that mindset of worrying about making mistakes, about letting your coach down, your team down, your parents down, you're gonna make more mistakes. But as soon as you become excited about what you can do, you become challenged by what you can accomplish, focusing on the good is gonna allow you to be a lot better of a soccer player. Grab some soccer balls and head to the field to focus on the 4 major points I've already mentioned. However, focusing on them all at once is too much. Instead, focus on only one thing for 15 reps, then the next for 15, focus on the next, and so on. Then circle back and focus on 2 things for 15 shots. Do this until you have all the steps down pat, which will take several training sessions. Don't expect to be perfect overnight. Alright, soccer squad, make sure to stick around to the end of this video for that pro tip you've been waiting for. If you want to learn more about how to have the hardest and most accurate shot in your league, then grab the second book in the Understand Soccer series, Soccer Shooting and Finishing, today on Amazon.com using the link in the description below. Alright, soccer squad, for that pro tip you've been waiting for is when you're going to shoot, so many soccer players love those upper 90 shots. You watch all the YouTube highlight reels, you watch the different video clips, the ESPN highlights, the top 10. Okay, and in those, the things that make it are those upper 90 goals. But think about it, in a player's career, they're only gonna have a few, maybe a handful, maybe if you're some of the best in the world, you'll have quite a few more, but a lot of those goals only come on free kicks, when you actually have to get the ball up and over a wall. So when you're actually going to shoot in a game, in the actual game, don't worry so much about getting it perfectly upper 90. Instead, because notice, if it goes upper 90 and it's maybe an inch too close to the post, maybe it's an inch too high, then it's hitting the post, it's hitting the crossbar, and that ball's not going in. But in reality, it's not going to be an inch off, it's probably going to be more like a foot off. So you're going to be missing the net altogether. Versus maybe bringing it in a foot, still going to that far post, but maybe taking it and having it 2 feet off the ground. So it makes it so that even if the keeper saves it, they're giving up a rebound directly in front of the net. You shoot high and it goes higher than the net, you completely wasted an opportunity for your team to score because that ball is going to be a goal kick in the other team's possession. So keep in mind, soccer squad, do you want to be that player that scores 30 goals in a season and a bunch of them are on the ground, you're passing the ball and you're being very accurate? They're not very spectacular goals, but you got a lot of shots and you got a lot of goals. Or you want to be that player that only winds up outside the 18 expecting the perfect upper 90 shot and maybe scores 2, 3, 4, 5 goals at a max in a season? You tell me, player with more goals or a player with more spectacular goals? You decide.